Hey everyone, this is Javi of the Inner Child Collective. Have you ever thought of starting your own podcast? Well, if so, Anchor is the easiest way to make a podcast. I've been using this platform for a while and I love it because it's free, easy to use, and it'll distribute your podcast for you so you'll be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. But what's even better is that you'll get paid for all your hard work and dedication and with no minimum listenership. So, what are you waiting for? Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started.
Once again.
Hey everybody, this is Javi and you're listening to the Inner Child Collective where you and your inner child heal for the better. Welcome. How are you? I can't believe that it's like 7 episodes already, or 8 rather. So thank you so much for sticking with me. I really appreciate it. I hope everyone is doing well and y'all had an awesome weekend. I personally had a few days to rest because I experienced burnout last week. And I'll talk a little bit about that during the discussion. But first, I have an announcement. So, as I said last week, I'm opening my platform to spiritual entrepreneurs who follow me on Instagram or any social media outlet. So, for those who would like to sponsor the Inner Child Collective for $14, my fellow spiritual entrepreneurs can write an ad to be featured on my podcast. And $25 if you wish to be featured on both the podcast and social media, on my social media platforms. Those two options are available to y'all right now. You can send your payment to paypal.me.bowtiepsychic or my Cash App, $bowtiepsychic. I'm going to be doing a Patreon as well. So I'll put those features or those incentives on there as well so you can take advantage of those. So I just asked that you write your blurb and send it to my email address, innerchildcollectivepodcast@gmail.com. So that's it. That's all the announcements I have for this week. And with that being said, let's get on with the show. So this week, I'm being led to switch gears from the norm, even though I'll be talking about a little bit about inner child energy. But I was thinking about this today or this episode I was thinking about because of what happened to me last week. And most of the time, like the episodes are about childhood sex abuse survivors or childhood abuse survivors in general doing inner child work. But this week's episode is dedicated to the spiritual leaders working with their soul clients. I like to basically discuss honoring our spiritual maintenance and what triggers our behaviors. Because I feel like that's extremely important while you're doing any sort of work, inner child energy work, especially because you're digging into your past and you're digging into what drives you on an unconscious level, right? And so the reasons why I'm bringing this up is because of something, like I said before, of what happened to me last week as far as me burning out. I was on the verge of burning out. I was on the verge of basically stopping everything, which would have been unfortunate because since being on a spiritual journey, I've grown a lot and provided services to those I'm meant to serve in some way, shape, or form. I'm also the type of person who has a tendency to just put out a lot of projects and put out a lot of incentives. I just basically hit the ground running. If anything, I've been accused of going from 0 to 100 as far as putting out projects and just doing what I love to do in order to serve humanity. Okay, so I love doing tarot. I love doing the podcast. I love doing videos and writing and doing all of that. Um, I'm usually at my computer more often than not. I'm often reading up on inner child energy or inner child healing in general. I have been doing a lot of studying in regards to this. So it's like that's basically my day in a nutshell. And even though I love what I do, I have the tendency to burn myself out. And I notice that the older I get, you know, the more days it takes for me to recover. What would take me like what used to take me about one day or a couple of days is nearly like the entire week. Um, and there's a lot of health problems, that I have too. At least, you know, some stuff that's in the air, and that's actually contributing to the burnout. And I know I'm not the only one who does this as far as doing a lot of overworking and basically putting their energies out there um, so that the public can resonate with you, okay, or those who are meant to serve. And I'm talking about those who work so hard to reach their people. Um, most of us are empathetic or empathic, not just empathetic, but empathic. We can feel people's energies, feel their sicknesses, their illnesses. Um, and most of us have a story similar to those that we're meant to serve. We see and connect to them. We see them, we connect to them um, because we are healers, we are teachers, we are leaders in our own right, and we see a lot of our struggles in the people that we are meant to serve. Therefore, we see a lot of their potential for growth too. Okay, because we grew from our situation. We've done a lot of healing. We will continue to do a lot of healing, and so we see that potential in the people that we are meant to serve. But what happens is that we give so much of ourselves to others, and that could look like anything. That could look like anything. Maybe whatever that looks like to you, that could look like anything. But my point is, like, we do so much for other people that we have the tendency to forget about ourselves. We forget about our own requirements. We forget about our own spiritual maintenance. And we put ourselves in a position to be Captain Save-A-Hose. We all have, like, a lot of us who struggle with that, we have a savior complex because we have this fear of someone slipping through the cracks on our watch, right? We don't want anyone to fail. We don't want anyone to struggle and suffer for any prolonged period of time. And when we can't reach everyone, I know that a lot of us, at least I do anyway, hi boo boo. A lot of us experience guilt and resentment or believe that we've done something wrong or we don't know what we're doing. And we somehow cause that person or we let that person down instead of putting the responsibility onto them. And many of us begin to feel as if we're not worthy of this work or we are not educated enough for this work, that we're not enough. And we pretty much take on personal responsibilities for someone else's decision making and someone else's behavior as if we could have stopped them. Okay. So it's time for those. My cat is out here doing the most. Stop, boo boo. It's time for those, who resonate with this topic. To examine what that looks like, our savior complex, and where that came from. When did it start? Who or what made us believe that someone else um and everything about them was our personal responsibility? When did that start to happen? When did we start to realize that um not only are we taking on the responsibility and the personal accountability of someone else, when did we start to realize that we're not even getting the same in return? When did we realize there was this lack of reciprocity? When did we begin to realize that this is codependent? This is a form of codependency where we feel like we are to be important to this person, who may or may not be doing the work necessary to take responsibility for their own growth and for their own healing. And I ask this because when we're too concerned about the spiritual or the well being, doesn't have to be a spiritual, but basically the well being of someone else at the expense of our own health, whether it be our mental health, emotional health, spiritual, even sexual health, um, we have to be honest with ourselves. Okay, we are to ask why. What drives that behavior? What drives our actions and behaviors when it comes to our savior complex or our Captain Saberhoism? Why most of us are subjecting ourselves to burnout or subjecting ourselves to reenacting some form of abuse that we may or may not have gone through, during our childhood. I guarantee you that a lot of that stuff that we went through, especially those who are meant to serve on a spiritual level at a spiritual capacity, we're pretty much we put ourselves in the position to not put ourselves first. We don't put ourselves first. A lot of us do not. And so we subject ourselves to a lot of manipulation and a lot of abuse and a lot of narcissistic behavior, uh, someone else's narcissistic behavior, especially if we're empathic. Especially if we're empathic. So this is a time for us to figure out why we subject ourselves as spiritual people, because we have our own story as to what brought us to where we are. Um, I know for me, my savior complex stems from being the protector archetype. Because we all have archetypes. We all have an archetype that we have used, for our survival or to present a certain behavior or trait into the world. Okay, that's how we use our archetypes to figure out who we are, um, and to have a personality to present to other people, right, to the general public. So mine was the protector. I was a protector archetype in my family, and among my friends. I still find myself stepping into that archetype and displaying the behaviors of the protector. I literally, when I was a child or when I was growing up, I literally placed myself between my mother and my younger brothers often. I was very willing to defend my siblings from bullies in the neighborhood, in my grandmother's neighborhood, or my neighborhood, or at school, or whatever, almost to the point of fighting adults at one point. Um, Whenever my Aunt Joyce got into trouble, I defended her, even though she was one of my perpetrators, and even though she treated me with disregard the majority of the time, I was always protecting her and standing up for her. Right. As I got older, I became very active in political organizations, like grassroots organizations, to fight for everyone from Black folks to children to the LGBTIQA community, and to fight against racism and poverty and other forms of discrimination that marginalized people and colonized people have gone through. Up until like 2018, I was active in the Rochester radical community in some form or fashion, and I became involved. In so many organizations and so many groups, in hopes to help others see their worth, to help others realize that as a community, we are to come together and make our communities a better place, to become more interconnected, so we are not relying on outside sources or resources or outside, or relying on the government, whether it be the state government or the federal government. We are coming together, and we are becoming more and more of a closed group. That's what I was looking for, and that's one of the reasons why I did what I did, because that was my way of saying, like, look, if we are to protect ourselves from outsiders, right? Um, And to be honest with you, I still feel that way, but for a whole different reason, for a whole nother reason, right? Um, and I just became involved. You know, that's one of the reasons why, anyway. And I recognize the power of community, um, and the future of the people within that community. And being politically active allowed me to be of service of others. It allowed me um, to take pieces of my past and pieces of myself and relate it to people who were struggling. And I did that much to my detriment, whatever that looked like. Because after a while, I burned out, or I felt as if I was not getting very much in return. Um, and I'm not saying that, and that's the reason why I became an activist or whatnot. But I just felt like um, eh, when I put myself in a position to help someone, I always found out that they were like there was more to the story than what they were giving the general public. Um, and there were times when, I was criticized by former comrades because they didn't think I was doing enough for the organization. And the organization that I'm referring to, I used to do a lot of volunteer work for them, and I will definitely name them like another time. But I was very active in an organization where um, a lot of my resources were used. And I was criticized for not doing enough, even though I was in school and going through a lot of other stuff, right? And I brought up a lot of unresolved issues around people pleasing on my end, or feeling very distrustful, or feeling as if I was not enough, right? And I just took a lot of manipulation and abuse from certain people within that organization, within that community, right? Um, I place myself in the position of being so available um, that's the reasons one of the reasons why I removed myself from the political community in my city. And so I'm telling people this story um, to demonstrate that it's okay to honor yourselves enough, or to rest, to say no, to even distance ourselves from the idea that we're to sacrifice our peace and our prosperity for the sake of the greater cause, um, and to basically sacrifice ourselves for the world. Okay, like the world is going to be okay without us trying to save it, you know. And I'm talking about spiritual people. I'm talking about the spiritual people. We are here to raise the collective consciousness of this world. We're not here to take on the responsibilities of someone else. It took me looking into my past and doing a lot of inner child energy work on myself to understand that sometimes my resources are not required. My voice is not required. My time, my energy, my pearls is not required. The people are very much capable of doing the work for themselves. It took me being burned out, and it took me um, being hurt multiple times, or putting myself in an awkward position many times in order for me to come to this point. And it's okay to put myself first. It's okay to put yourself first. It's okay to honor the body, to listen to your body, to feel the energy, feel its energy, and and resign to your fatigue. Okay, and stepping back, especially if you're doing spiritual work, because spiritual maintenance is sitting our asses down somewhere and resting, sitting our asses down somewhere and meditating, okay, going outside, hanging out with friends, being alone to recharge. Okay, it doesn't require you to work all the time and give services all the time. That's not the requirement. The requirement is to honor your energy and allow yourself to recharge and to be around folks who are going to feed your spirit, or to fuel your spirit, or to do something for yourself that requires you to recharge. Um, it's a form of self love. It's a form of self love. It's a form of self care, and that in itself is a radical act, especially within this capital system. We're all struggling within this capitalist system, and I remember seeing a meme saying that, self-care is a radical act, and it really is. Okay? Especially when you bring spirituality into it, is a radical act because you're putting yourself first. That's and you're doing it not because you're being individualistic, but because you know that you are not able to even show up and do what you're here to do if you're fucking tired. Like, you're not going to be able to do the work necessary. Like, um and there's nothing wrong with you if you decide not to do something, right then and there. There's nothing wrong with you if something comes up and you're like, I don't have the spoons for it anymore, or I don't have the spoons right now. It's okay for you to do that. That is spiritual maintenance. That is spiritual maintenance. Spiritual maintenance is maintaining your energy, is maintaining your time and your energy in order for you to do the work that you are meant to do. Maintenance is about maintaining. If you're doing things beyond your capacity, and you're on the verge of burning out, that's not spiritual maintenance. Is basically self-sabotage. Not putting yourself first and not taking care of yourself and not being aware of your spiritual maintenance, that is self-sabotage. And so my assignment for listeners this week is to honor your spiritual maintenance, to maintain your spirituality, that high vibrational energy, whatever that looks like to you, and to truly examine your Captain Savahoism, your savior complex, because if not, it's going to continue to happen. So when did it be? It's time to ask. When did it begin with you? When did it begin for you? When did your savior complex actually develop, or even was initiated? What messages did you receive about resting, about productivity? How do your intersections play a role in how you and your family view self-care? Okay, and self-love and self-preservation. Um, because intersectionality plays a huge part in how we were treated as children, and it plays a huge part in how we view the world today. Okay, and how do those views affect you in your adulthood? Affect your relationship with your inner child? How did it affect all of your inner selves, for that matter? Those are questions that we are to ask ourselves, and what you can ask yourself as a listener. So that's all I have for this portion of the podcast. If you resonate with what was said, please say so in the review section on Apple Podcasts or wherever you are listening to your favorite podcasts. You can also subscribe to the Inner Child Collective podcast as well. And you can also, I'm also will to do a Q&A session or episode one of these days. So if you have any questions or comments, you can email them at at Inner Child Collective podcast at gmail.com, and I'll put all that information in the descriptions. Okay. So with that being said, let's get ready for today's Inner Child Energy message. Be right back. So this is the Inner Child Energy message. Remember that it's a general reading, and I put out the intention that this message will be for those who resonate with it. And I'll be shuffling cards too. So just to give you the heads up, if you hear a bunch of noise and shuffling or whatnot, is because I am using the cards. So I'll start off with the archetype. All right, so I wonder what Spirit has to say. So, dear Higher Spirit, what archetype represents the collective today? For January 27th, for the week of January 27th, 2020, what archetype represents the collective? for the week of January 27th, 2020. Oh, wow. So I got this before. Is this it, Spirit? All right. So for this right here, we got this before. So, well, I did a video for Instagram and I got this particular archetype. So we got the teacher. Okay, the listeners received the teacher archetype, and what I'm getting is that a lot of us are teachers. A lot of us are spiritual healers, and this episode is dedicated to spiritual healers, teachers, and wise ones. And a lot of us are meant to serve for the sake of humanity. We are meant to serve to raise the collective consciousness of this world because we are pretty much here to help people reach and see their full potential as a person, a spiritual being, whatever that looks like to you. I know that there are people who work with strictly light workers. I know that my mentor works strictly with light workers to help them develop their psychic ability and to help them rediscover who they once were, right? I know I work with inner child energy, and helping people tap into their inner child and basically embrace their inner child, all of their inner selves. There are people who, do shadow work. There are people who do all kinds of things, do Reiki, and all types of energy healing. There are shamans. There are people in this world who are meant to raise the collective consciousness of this world, one person at a time or a few people at a time. So there is no need for us to not recognize this about ourselves, that we are pretty much here serving our purpose and fulfilling a spiritual contract that we made with spirit. Okay. And that is going to be, I'm getting that's going to be a recurring theme for people being awakened, reawakened, and remembering why they were here, why they are here. I'm getting a lot of past life stuff too. So there are many people who have gone through many lifetimes being teachers and healers and wise ones, but for whatever reason, they were possibly, they went through the lessons again, or they're going through the lessons again. A lot of us were persecuted, prosecuted for what we were doing. A lot of us were punished, which is why a lot of us are not, or either not, serving their purpose or struggling to serve their purpose or to see themselves as powerful people. But when it comes to being a teacher, 2020 is about that. 2020 is about learning, studying, knowing yourself, and embracing that inner teacher, that teacher that you are, that wise one that you are. At the same time, please realize that you do not have all the answers. You do not have to have all the answers. It's okay for you to say, I don't know. A lot of ego comes with, a lot of ego maniacal stuff comes with spewing off at the mouth, knowing full well that you don't have all the answers or you don't know what you're talking about. Okay. It's okay for you to say you don't know. It's okay for you to, read, study. Yes, tap into your inner library, because we all have an inner library that's attached to spirit, that is very much connected to spirit. But we're also being told too that if you don't know something, look it up. Okay. I'm going to be honest with you. When it comes to inner child energy, I'm reading on everything and anything that I can get my hands on, because I know I'm not an expert, but I also know that I can teach you what I am being taught. If I have questions, I will definitely let people know, or put that question out there. But what we're not going to do is pretend that we know something when we don't, because that's where the egomaniacal stuff comes through, and to give the wrong people the wrong information simply because you're afraid of saying you don't know, it's a detriment to you, and also like a detriment to the people that you are meant to serve. Okay, because a lot of emphasis is placed on on knowing or having all the answers or being an expert on something, and it's not that serious, Um, so be aware of who you're supposed to be. I just feel like there's a lot of people who are being taught to study or being told to study, um, and to link up with mentors so they can um, better their knowledge and be of service. So tell me, Spirit, about the inner child. What was the collective's inner child like in regards to the teacher? I would like to know. What was the inner child like in regards to teachers? The collective's inner child like in regards to the teacher archetype. We got a couple of cards here. Okay, so what I received here is the Two of Swords, right? So I have the Two of Swords upside down, and so what I received from this is, you are a child that always contemplated some sort of decision. You often felt like there was some sort of decision. You felt like there was a decision that you had to be aware of. I'm definitely getting Gemini energy from this, like someone who always was just interested in things, was always the type of person who always wanted to learn um everything. And so there were many times when it came to learning and when it came to any sort of decision making, you looked at you looked at so many different options. So that's why I'm getting like a Gemini feel to this, because you felt like you had so many options that you did, and so many options when it came to your learning, when it came to um, being provided different types of information. Um, you were basically like the type of child I'm getting, that um, you didn't take everything at face value. Um, what I'm getting is that you didn't take everything at face value. You wanted to know different options. You always ask yourself, okay, or ask other people around you whether or not there was a different choice. Okay, because you felt like there was more than one choice. I also got to like the King of Wands here. You're I'm getting you were always asking questions and you were very stubborn. I got like a very stubborn vibe from this card. Um, Simply because when you had your head on something or your mind on something, um, you wanted you went for it. Okay, you went for it, especially when it came to knowledge. You were one to also like you're very confident in yourself. You're very confident in your ability to accumulate knowledge. You're very smart. You're very. I'm also getting very practical. And you knew your power. So that tells me right here, like your bubble did not burst, right? So that tells me right here, like you were very young, very stubborn, and very sure of yourself. I'm just getting like a strong, dominant energy from this. So based from that card, the King of Wands, rather. And so what I am receiving, as far as you as a person, um, you are very strong, a very strong willed individual and very strong in general, especially like spiritually. I'm just getting like in your core, in the solar plexus area, you knew who you were. You definitely knew who you were. Um, and you were just not afraid to ask questions. I'm getting well, between the ages of 4 and 5, before the world you crashed down on you, you know, you were not tainted. You were not tainted by the world yet. So I'm definitely getting 4 to 5 years of age. So, so let's see here. So what obstacles? Are we done? All right, I'm getting. Tell me more about the collective's inner child. Yeah, you were very. I like. I like this. So, yeah, the Seven of Wands. You got received the Seven of Wands here, and so what that tells me is that you always had your head in the clouds. You were always thinking about the future, what to do with all the information that you received. What are you doing? What are you doing next? What are you to do next? Okay, because you had all this information. You were very strong willed and you're very determined. I'm just getting a very determined spirit here. And so you're a very determined individual, a very determined child. I kind of feel like, despite all the chaos, if there was any chaos around you, no one could tell you what you could and could not do. Okay? No one could tell you what to do. You already had it in your mind what you were, that you were going to be successful. I'm getting like this whole thing of success. Like in some way, shape, or form, you were going to be somebody. Okay. Um, so what obstacles did the collective's inner child face? What did y'all go through when you were growing up? Where did y'all go? What did y'all go through? Why am I getting, let's see, and also too, I'm using like my typical decks here, but there is one in particular deck I have, the Dreams of Gaia. Yes, I have the knowledge card here. Yeah, you were just. I was told to like bring that out. You're very knowledgeable. Very knowledgeable. Okay. I'm just where I'm like the teacher card was like the knowledge card here. I also, as far as the teacher, I'm also getting the Hierophant um in my mind as well. Um, but let's see here. What obstacles did the inner child collective's inner child face? Yeah. Oh, wow. All right. So, what I got here as far as your obstacles, you got the Nine of Swords. Someone in your family passed away, or there was some sort of death in the family, or some sort of disappointment to where there was some grief. There was a moment where something disappointed you, or something happened to where you were either disappointed or grieving. Could you tell me a little bit about that, spirit? What happened there? Can you tell me a little bit about the Nine of Swords? Can you tell me a little bit about the Nine of Swords? Could you tell me about the Nine of Swords? What happened here? All right. So what I got a couple of cards here. I have the King of Swords. You began to not, something happened to where you began to distrust people at a young age. Someone disappointed you. Someone you cared about disappointed you. Someone that you looked up to um, I'm getting like even though it was a King of Swords, I'm also getting this person was very. I'm just getting like a male a male in your life. I'm getting. I'm getting like a father figure let you down. They let you down. He let you down. Um, a male individual, maybe like a father or someone in your family. Um, they disappointed you in some way, shape, or form. I'm getting like I'm getting that they left your house. So I'm assuming they walked out. I'm getting that they walked out, and that actually changed a lot um, in regards to your view on family, your view on life in general. But this person definitely disappointed you. This was happening around when you were around 9 or 10 years of age. 9 or 10 years of age. I also have the Seven of Pentacles here. There was just after you just felt like when this male left it, when your father left the house or whoever this was, there was just no foundation. The Seven of Pentacles upside down. There was just no foundation, none whatsoever. And actually, you have the Fool here, and that told me right here that despite all that's happened, do you believe that you believed in this person still? They disappointed you. They let you down because you were they were your means of protection. There was a lot going on in your life where around this time where you just felt very unsafe and you felt very insecure in regards to other people, and you just felt like this person left you at a really bad time in your life. Despite all that's happened, you got the Fool card. You wanted to believe the best in this person, or not exactly give them the benefit of the doubt, but there was a part of you that did not want to give up on them yet. This probably explains why you want to see why you thrive and strive to see the best in people. Because you want to give people the benefit of the doubt. You feel like there's a reason why people left. There's a reason why something happened. They didn't do it on purpose. That's what you tell yourself, like, things will get better eventually. Things will get better over time. I'm just getting from the Fool that you feel as if you are supposed to be the one to change things around. I'm just getting a lot of naivety and confusion in regard from the Fool. Yeah. I'm just getting like you have the mentality of a child. Even though like chronologically you were one age, you were definitely developmentally another. So, and I'm also getting to that you were very much even though they're like the cards and energy are genderless, I'm getting that a lot of y'all were quote unquote daddy's girls. Like you cared about you definitely cared about your father or father figure. And you were very disappointed when they left. Okay, so that's what I'm getting from that. Any other obstacles? Okay. Yeah, there was a lot. I'm definitely getting some sort of divorce or something. Like he walked out of the house. It's not okay. He left you in a bad situation and like left an emptiness. I'm getting to like the fact that your father figure left some sort of emptiness that you had to deal with for a while. Ooh, wow. So, what other obstacles? Anything else here? What other obstacles did the collective's inner child face? Yeah, you got the Five of Wands. You were bullied too. A lot of y'all face bullies. A lot of you face some sort of, yeah, you just felt like y'all were picked on. That's exactly what I got from this card. Yeah, you definitely were bullied in elementary school at least. So this definitely happened when you were like 9 or 10 years old, 11 at least. And it went on for quite some time. It usually happened just like any other. I'm getting that it happened during recess the majority of the time. If it didn't happen during recess, It definitely happened in the classroom, but I'm definitely seeing like an outside setting, so that tells me that it was during recess that all this stuff was happening to you. Yeah, I'm just getting straight up and flat out that you are, as a teacher, you use a lot of your childhood experiences to connect with your soul tribe. So yeah, I definitely want to know more about your childhood. I want to know more about you. Could you tell me a little bit about the obstacles that the child in the collective inner child faced? Yeah, you have the judgment card upside down too, so that tells you right there that there was like a lack of confidence after a while. That confidence that you once had, um, you just felt like things were not going to change. You were not going to change, and regardless of what other people, regardless of any sort of positive, positive, uh, you know, messages that you have received. I'm just getting that you felt like you were constantly being judged and nothing was going to change. Like it was just like a childhood. Your childhood was very long. You felt um, you were considered weird. I'm getting from this judgment card too a lot of self judgment. A lot of self judgment. I'm also getting to that you feel like I keep getting you're never going to change. You're never going to change. What's that about? Yeah, you just felt like no matter what happened that your life something in your life wasn't going to change. Your circumstances weren't going to change. In fact, you don't like the fact that your outside circumstances changed too. I'm getting that too. Like you don't like the fact that it wasn't like this. Your childhood changed. There was like some major shifts that happened, and you were not ready for that. So you're like, I don't like these changes. That's what I'm saying. Like you don't like the changes that happen. That's what I'm getting from the judgment card. Um, yeah, like this was like in elementary school. Like you had like a rough one. Um, I wonder what your teenage years were like. If that's the case, what were they like? What was the collective's inner child like as a teen? Yeah. Despite all that's happened, you got the Six of Wands here. Yeah, you were not only were you a leader, um, but you were definitely looking for a tribe, and that's when like I want to say you started to find your strength in high school, because a lot of you gained a lot of your confidence, and also what I'm getting from this is that you got like a group of friends and some people who saw you as a leader. What I'm getting the vibe that I'm getting from the Six of Wands is that your leadership skills came out. Yeah, I'm getting that you took on leadership roles. Um, I'm getting senior class president. So when you were a senior in high school, um, you definitely got like a senior class president or something like you were definitely seen as a leader that people can look up to. And you are very much a high achiever. I'm definitely getting a high achiever. Despite all you've been through, that's probably one of the reasons why you were bullied in elementary school is because you were very much a high achiever. You were very much a learner. You always paid attention in class, and so a lot of people felt like you were much of a goody two shoes. I haven't heard that frame in a while, but basic a phrase in a while. But what I am getting from this is that um, you outgrew you outgrew that, and they saw a lot of the people who either made fun of you or a lot of people in high school at least saw you as a leadership type. as a leader type. So, wow. So I was wondering, like, so that's why you're very much a teacher. And that's why, and because you pick up information so well, that's one of the reasons why it's very hard for you as a teacher, as a spiritual teacher, otherwise, to say I don't know. You hate not knowing. You do not like. You don't like not knowing. You are known for your intelligence, and when things are not, when the information is not available to you, or it's hard for you to absorb the information for whatever reason, you get upset. So that's how it is. So what can the collective do to overcome any behavior or thought that hinders them? What can the collective do to overcome any behavior or thought that hinders them in any way, shape, or form? Okay. So, all right. Okay. So you have the Eight of Pentacles upside down. And so I'm being told this. Let's see here. To stop worrying about the outcome. Stop worrying about the outcome. It's what I'm getting is that, especially when it comes to your finances and any sort of resource you have, do not worry about the outcome. You have the tendency to worry about what things are going to look like, how everything is going to work out, and you're literally being told to by spirit and through this card, the Eight of Pentacles upside down, that you are not to worry about the outcome and allow the outcome to be what it is. To enjoy the journey, to enjoy the learning, the journey of learning, and the journey in general. Okay, you don't have to have all the answers, is what I'm getting from this card. I'm also getting the Emperor upside down. Stop trying to control the outcome and stop doing this. Okay, allow yourself to be gentle with yourself, be gentle with the process, be gentle with people who are not able to pick up as much information as you are. There are many different ways of learning, and you are to recognize that within yourself and other people. I'm just getting because the Emperor is known as a father type, um, who is very stubborn, and also very much a leader, and also very primal. And you're being told to calm down. Okay, you're being told to calm down. You're being told to allow yourself to just settle down. Okay, there is no need for you to worry about the future. And I'm just getting like this. You are to ground yourself. You are to ground yourself, and you are to realize that because you're a leader, just because you're a leader doesn't mean you get to treat anybody any way you want to. Okay, one of the reasons why you're being brought to teach is to teach other people tolerance and to be patient with people. You're not exactly a patient person. So, one way to overcome anything that will hinder you is to be patient with yourself, to be patient with the process, and to treat people with respect and kindness when you are reaching out to them. You also have the Hermit in regards to, like you are to pull back and learn. You are to pull back and do some inner reflection, introspection. I'm getting to that you are to take some alone time for yourself. So Yeah, this is about spiritual maintenance. Take some time for yourself to do some spiritual maintenance. Take some time out to continue to do your own work so you're not out here being sloppy. So you're not out here, because we have the tendency to do that sometimes. We get caught up in our own shit and we end up being sloppy and we end up being messy in regards to how we treat other people and how we treat ourselves. You know, I'm also getting to like spiritual maintenance will avoid burnout. Spiritual maintenance will avoid you trying to be a Captain Saberho, or a um, a savior, like a consistent and a constant savior. Okay, because I'm going to be honest with you, um, putting yourself in a position to be a savior is also a form of self victimization when it's overdone. Because now you are thinking that people are not listening to you. You're thinking that you're being taken for granted. You'll catch a resentment. You will put yourself in a state of being a martyr by saying like I sacrifice all this for you. So putting yourself in a hermit state, okay, and making yourself the hermit it will help you bring things into perspective, and you will start to contemplate where all this stuff came from. Okay, if you listen to the first part of this episode, we start to ask ourselves some questions, in regards to where and when this savior complex that sometimes our teachers we teachers tend to have, where did that come from? So the hermit is telling us like, look, one way to overcome any sort of behavior or to avoid any sort of destructive behavior in regards to um, how burnout and things like that, we are to do a lot of introspection. Okay, every once in a while, if you and to honor that. Okay, so we can learn to let go of whatever is hurting us. Okay, so what can the collective do to honor their inner child? What can the collective do to honor their inner child? All right. So what I got here is the star. We got the star card upside down. And so what we got here is to honor your strength. Honor the inner child's strength, and let them know that they are to. I'm also getting honor your power. Honor the power of the inner child. Honor the power. Honor their love for knowledge. Honor their curiosity. Honor learning and the way they learn. Honor them. Teach them. Tell them what they are learning. Okay, if you are to tap into your inner child and read to them what you read and ask questions and answer questions they have, that's another way for you to tap in. Also, let them be aware that they are here to serve humanity. They are here to serve a purpose, but um, they are still to know their power as a child. They are still to know their power as a child. Let them know too that that people are going to pick on them, people are going to say things about them, but that has nothing to do with them. You are here, you honor them, and I'm getting that the inner child that the inner self, excuse me, that needs to hear this the most is the 4 or 5 year old, the 6 year old, the 9 year old that was picked on, the 9, the 10, and the 11 year old. They are to hear about this too. They are to hear about it. They need to hear about what they are capable of doing. Let them know their power. That's one way to honor them. Okay. So now we're going to move on to the words of encouragement. Dear Higher Spirit, what words of encouragement do you have for the collective? All right. So the gatherer. So you have the gatherer here. The gatherer. So what does this say, Spirit? I'm getting each one teach one. So that tells me right here that the gatherer is to never forget what they're here for. You are to gather the people together. You are to gather the people together to see their own strength, to help them see their own strength, to help them see their own power. Okay? You are here to be the teacher, to be the one to bring peace and to bring harmony. You're not to use your gift of knowledge or accumulating knowledge to cause any sort of division, whatever that looks like, to cause any sort of rift in the community. You are pretty much here to use your words and your knowledge to tell people or to help people recognize their own strength and to recognize that interconnectedness. That's what you're here for. You're not here to fight nobody. You're not here to cause any issues or problems with nobody. You are to use your platforms and to use your voice and to use all of your resources to help people see their worth. If you have to step outside, I'm getting this too. If you are to step outside or go outside, then you are to go ahead and do that. You understand? You are to go ahead and you are to do that if this means that you are to bring your community together. Do not allow the past. Do not allow the past or whatever dealings you have with your community to keep you in the hermit state. You are the teacher, not the hermit. Okay? You are to step into your teacher role, but also know when to pull back. You're not to be staying by yourself all the time. Okay? So the word of encouragement is to know your power and to know that you are here to collectively bring people together so they can see their own power and they can do their own work so they can go ahead and help other people. So that's all I have for this week's episode in regards to the inner child energy message. If you resonated with the message in any way, shape, or form, or anything that was said throughout the Inner Child Collective podcast, or this episode rather, please be sure to subscribe to the podcast, leave a review, share it with your friends. You can also follow me, the Bowtie Psychic, on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and now Twitter. If you would like a more personalized inner child energy reading, you can go to the service section on my website, thebowtiepsychic.com, to book an appointment. Thank you so much again for sharing your time and energy with me. I